guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all have been good. I'm currently out in the woods, and as you can see behind me, it is turning to spring, which is lovely. It is almost May, and because of that, there's a bunch of wildflowers that are starting to bloom. So I thought it would just be fun to kind of show you guys all of the pretty wildflowers you can see in the Pennsylvania woods especially, and some probably out in the fields a little bit as well. So I hope you guys enjoy, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, so late April and early May is really when a lot of the woodland wildflowers really start to bloom out, especially the trees and a lot of the understory as well. So I'm going to show you as much as I can here, and then I do have some clips from last week that I took that I'll probably include as well, just in case I can't find those flowers anymore. But to begin with, let's start here. Now, this isn't a wildflower, although they do begin as a wildflower. These are one of the earliest plants you'll see in spring. It's called a skunk cabbage, and I've missed the flower on these. Usually they just have one leaf that overgoes the flower in this early spring, like February, March. But what's left now is just the plant, and as you can see, it looks like lettuce actually. But when you tear a leaf off, I'll just do a little bit here, and you smell it, it actually smells like a skunk. And it can smell very strong or not as bad, but that's how you can differentiate it from any other kind of leafy plants like this. So yeah, super cool. There's actually one over there that I saw where an animal must have tried it and decided it didn't like it because it looked nibbled on. But yeah, these guys are really cool. You can spot them all throughout the woods, especially in more of a wetland setting. There's one over there, and there's quite a few over here as well. There's buck. So that's what those are. If you see them driving along, even the roadside, there'll be some as well. These are another very common wildflower here in Pennsylvania. These guys are called the May apple, and they're actually one of my favorite plants because they just kind of spread throughout the woods, and they make a really cool ground cover. They usually bloom in May. I think usually late May, but I could be wrong. And you can see here that they usually have two leaves to begin with, and then right in the middle here is a flower. And you can see this one's starting to bud out a little bit, just slowly. It's not very big. And yeah, you'll have to lift it up. Here's a better one here to spot the flower. And then they create a little fruit as well after the flower is bloomed out. Let me get this leaf out of here without breaking anything. There we go. There you go. There's that flower. So they're kind of hidden just by looking at the tops of them here. And then they'll open up to a pretty white or red flower. Ours are usually white, and they look like an apple blossom actually. So very pretty, very cool. And again, they're all over the woods at this time of year. The other thing that's starting to really unfurl now is these ferns. These guys will be all throughout the woods here soon. And they get rather large here actually because it is so wet. They really love it. This is a sensitive fern, and it looks like something's been eating him, but these guys are starting to unfurl. You can see one here, and I'll try and spot one where it's really furled up still, because they are cool to see. This guy I saw last week, and I didn't know what he was, and I had to go in and look it up. Okay, I've just found a tree that I have absolutely no idea what this is. What is that? I have no clue. But it's actually an elderberry, which it's a huge elderberry bush. But they have this almost, it really looks like a sumac to me, but it's not. And yeah, I looked it up and it ended up being an elderberry bush. Very cool. This one's really large, which is why I didn't think of an elderberry bush to begin with. I didn't realize they get this big. But they've got pretty cool leaves. They look rather wild. Here's a fern that I was talking about when it's unfurling. They're so cool looking. I love seeing them here in the woods just because they remind me of a fairy garden, I guess. So I believe this is a young elderberry bush here. I could be wrong, but I believe that's what this is. I'll have to look and make sure because I've never seen a young elderberry bush either. But elderberry are actually really common in this area. and we have quite a few on the property. I've just never seen them bush out before, or a young one, but I believe that's what this is. These are one of my favorite flowers to find in the woods. These are wood anemones, and they look like little buttercups almost. And you can see they have these cool looking leaves, and these are all throughout the woods as well. And they have the cutest little flower, and these come in all different colors. We mostly have this color here where it's white with some pink on it, but we also have some pinks, and I believe I've seen some purples, but I'm not 100% sure. It could just be a dark red that I'm thinking I might have seen. But this is definitely the most common color here, and they're just fun to spot in the woods. And they're very small, kind of hard to see when you're just standing out here. There he is, and the vastness of it all, so you can see how small they are. But when you spot them, it's really fun. This again isn't a wildflower, but this is a witch hazel, which I had spoken about in my eastern trees identification in winter. And this is what they look like when they're starting to get their leaves on them. This is their leaves here. They look a lot like viburnum leaves to me, but they don't have that characteristic fuzziness to viburnum, and they're not as thick. And you can kind of see here, this is where it begins here, and it kind of umbrellas out, which is what I was talking about in my last video as well, or in that one video. You can see it goes out there, but then there's none over here. So very characteristic of the witch hazel. This is also another one of my favorite trees. Again, I know it's not wildflowers, but they're just coming out, and I just love these guys. This is a tulip tree, and they have these really cool looking leaves. They're very, I don't know any other tree that kind of looks like this, except for maybe a sassafras, but just rare ones really. But you can see they have that kind of palmately lobed leaves, I guess. They kind of come to a point, and they're flat on the point there. So very cool looking. They're just one of my favorites. I don't know why I love them. And they're actually a early succession tree, so they come in a lot when there's a clearing or something. So kind of here you can kind of see why he might have established himself. There's no other real competition. This had been cleared out, and so he's good to set up here. So this is another tree that really confused me last week, and I had to go in and check to see what it was, because as you can see, it has those teeny tiny, almost apple-like flowers in bundles here, but the leaves look like black cherry leaves. And so I had to look, and you can see how tall it is. It's a pretty tall tree. So I had to go look and figure out what it was, and it's actually a pin cherry. And I didn't realize we had any here on the farm, so that was kind of a fun find. They're also called a wild red cherry, and the fruits are small like the black cherry, but they are native here. So that's kind of fun. Didn't realize we had it, and the flowers are very pretty. Here's another wildflower that blooms in the springtime. This is a honeysuckle, and you can see pretty little flowers here. They do produce really cool looking flowers in my opinion, and they smell really good, especially along the roadsides. But the bad news is most of these guys are invasive in Pennsylvania. We do have a couple native guys, but this one I can almost 100% guarantee is going to be invasive. And there's actually a really easy way to tell if the honeysuckle you were looking at is invasive or not. If you just get some snips, which I have here. Let me just get these. And you snip off a piece of the plant like that. If you look, if the pith is hollow, it's an invasive species. So this is kind of a hard one to see, but you can actually see that dark bit right there. That's the pith, and it is hollow. So let me see if I can get a bigger piece to show you guys. Okay, so I have a bigger piece, and as you can see, that pith right there where that darker circle is in fact hollow. And it's really easy to tell in person. It's a little harder just because the camera can't capture everything, but that's one really easy way. Any hollow stem, if it's a honeysuckle, and honeysuckles, they're pretty easy to recognize here. They've got pretty identifiable characteristics. We've got those alternate leaf pattern, and the leaves are kind of silky to look at. and soft. They're very soft, and then the underside is very silvery. And then they have that characteristic flower as well. So if you just clip that off and you look in there at that pith, and if you see it's hollow, then that is in fact a invasive species. Any native honeysuckle will have a pith that is not hollow. So even in the winter, that's a really easy way to tell them apart. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of native honeysuckle here. It is all mostly invasive, and you can actually see here that is an invasive rose as well that's growing up right in between there. So they create this kind of impenetrable hedgerow almost. That's really hard to manage, I guess. There's that rose again. So, but yeah, they do have really pretty flowers, and they're not bad to look at, really. And so the thing with roses that you'll see, the wild roses, is we actually do have a native rose as well. It's called the swamp rose, and I know we have a couple over there, but I know these guys are invasive by looking at their stipule actually. And so let me just grab a rose here. It's really windy, so I'm going to hold on to it. There we go. So if you look at, actually this one might be a bad example here. Let me grab this one. If you look at this rose and you look right where the leaves meet the stem, you'll actually see a little piece of, let me see if I can find one, a little piece of leaf kind of, that there's one there, that kind of looks jaggedy and weird looking, and that's the stipule. So there's one there, you can see it right there is basically where it is. These guys, they don't have big ones yet. Once they get out more and the leaves get bigger, you'll be able to spot them more. But the native ones actually have a non-serrated edge, I guess. The invasives will have kind of, it's really hard to explain, but they look serrated almost, and they look like they have growths almost. It's really hard to explain. I wish I could show you a better one. Let me see if I can find one. Okay, so this is what an invasive species stipule looks like. It's this bit right here. And you can see how spiky it looks and how kind of mean and angry. And with a native swamp rose, those will actually be completely smooth. There will not be any little sharp protrusions there. So that's a really easy way to tell as well. The other thing with swamp roses is their flowers tend to be more pinkish, while the invasive multiflora rose, they're more white. But that's a really easy way to tell, because these are usually within each of the leaves. So, yep. So this bush slash tree right here is the hawthorn. I'm not sure which kind of hawthorn this is, but I know it is a hawthorn because it's got these very gnarly spikes here. And I've had one of these fall on my head before, and it does not feel nice. But you can see these really have the cutest little flowers. They look a lot like the apple flowers, apple blossom flowers. 5 little petals. You can see it's a complete flower, which means it has all of its parts. So it has the stamens and the pistils, and the petals, and then the sepals underneath. So that makes it a complete flower, meaning it has both male and female parts as well. And they're just really cute. There's Black, he just came zooming in, and small, and they kind of come in these bundles, as you can see. But yeah, this is what a hawthorn leaf looks like as well, if the wind would stop blowing. They're actually one of my favorite trees. Again, they do have those really massive spikes here, or thorns, and they are very pointy, and they will cut you up. So you got to be careful for them, but they do make a very pretty tree slash bush as well. This tree right here, it actually kind of looks like a lilac, and when I first saw it, I was very confused because I thought that's what it was. But it's actually a nannyberry, and we have a few of these on the farm as well. And you can see they've got these umbel flowers here, flower heads, and they haven't bloomed out yet. So hopefully I can catch them when they do. I don't miss it. But yeah, we have a few. I found one over that way as well, just a couple weeks ago. And but yeah, these guys get pretty big. I found this guy last year, and it's a happy find. I like these guys. Look at that. some sort of gall or something on this. Oh, this is actually a native. This is a native swamp rose. It's got something on it though. I don't know what that is. Let me see if I can get a sepal though and show you guys, or a stipule. So here is, I don't want to pull it off because it is native, but there's the stipule right here on the native guys. And you can see how it doesn't have any of that fringement to it. It's pretty straight. There's nothing on there. There's a little tiny bug on there. Don't want to disturb him. But yeah, so that's how you can tell the difference between a native versus an invasive. It's really easy to spot once you get the hang of where to find them. So you can see it's right attached, right where the leaf attaches to the stem. And that's what they look like. Very cool. So here is a pussy willow. You can see it actually is getting kind of that cotton-like look to it with its flowers. Ooh, there was a fish. Anyways, you can kind of tell these guys get a little crazy looking with their flowers and their catkins. These are what those are called. These are catkins. And this doesn't have the normal fluffy cotton-like catkin that you would normally imagine, but this is just kind of the end stages of them. That's what they end up looking like, which is kind of cool. But there's not a whole lot of other wildflowers out right now in the meadows here. We do have the dandelions and the wild violets, but that's about it for right now. I don't really count dandelions as weeds because they're so beneficial to all the bees. So I like seeing them as well. And they're pretty yellow. I don't know why everyone hates them. But here's a pretty violet. We have these all over. These are in the woods as well. And they're a pretty color. And we have reds and whites as well. And pinks. So usually we'll have buttercups and aster. But it's still too early for those guys. The buttercups will come soon. And the aster, oh look, there's a koi. And the aster will come in the fall. Look how big he's getting. Sunfish by him too. I don't know if you guys can see those right there. Sunfish are getting big. Come summon. Another little sunfish. These guys are big though. Dad feeds these guys, so they're pretty sociable. They don't really hide from you. And they're pretty. The thing that I love about Pennsylvania, I think the most, is just all aspects of it are just so alive with wildlife and flowers and plants and basically everything. And everywhere you look, there's something new to see, something else that's living just its life around you. And I don't know, I just love the diversity that Pennsylvania has in a lot of ways. And you don't even have to look hard to find it. So I guess that's my favorite thing I love about Pennsylvania.